Informative, educational, objective, inclusive, comprehensive. This is Progress Report. Updates and conversations from the Government Information Service.
Good day and welcome to another episode of Progress Report. We're in season 2. It's been a long road thus far. I can't believe, recently, for those of you that are listening, the episodes from season 1 are available on your favorite podcast streaming app, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and those things. The episodes are available there. Look for Progress Report, Government of Anguilla, and they're all there. And I had the distinct pleasure of uploading them, and I went through just skimming through the episodes, and we've covered some great content. We have with us, this is now his 3rd time.
Oh wow.
The only person that has been on Progress Report 3 times.
3 times a charm.
3 times a charm. The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Communications, Utilities, Housing, and Tourism. The man himself, the Honorable Minister Hayden Hughes. And I want to take a special moment in my little introduction speech to introduce my co-host. And I want to single her out because you guys have no idea how hard this lady works. She's the rudder, she's the jib, she's the till, that's how you call it, till, and she's everything in this little sailboat that we got going on here racing, because you know she didn't really win the races for the summer, so I will take a jab there, but she has so much in store. We have so much in store. Over the next couple episodes, we have a really diverse group of persons, from the youth representatives to the deputy governor to Mrs. Bradley. What's that department again?
She's the community planner.
The community planner. Everything that you were promised. She's even going to get a panel from IRD in to talk about government finances. We're going into budget and these type of things. Know where the country is at. She's got a lot packed in store for you. Again, I just follow orders. That's all I do. I follow orders, and that's how we ended up here with Mr. Hayden Hughes again today, because there's some important thing. He's just back from CTU? CTU.
I also attended CTU too.
I know, because I would know. You sent me this and you sent me that. So you've had 2 conferences recently that focused on tourism. We want to dive into that, and we want to touch our ports. If you've been following the Government of Anguilla Facebook page, you see the Blowing Point Ferry Terminal is coming along. You'll have seen that the soil sampling has been done. What else you'll see, Gleneva?
Well, I don't know, which is why I'm here, and
we hear you give up on Facebook. Alright, but we're going to find out a lot of things. Where should we start?
So let's start with your most recent travels.
Okay, good.
You attended CTO.
And CTU.
CTU. CTO stands for persons not showing and listening. CTO stands for what? Where was it held? What was it about?
So CTO stands for the Caribbean Tourism Organization. It's 33 member states. I believe Venezuela is no longer a member state, but so I think it's down to 32 member states, and I think 19 of the ministers of tourism and their entourages attended this recent rendition of the Caribbean Tourism Organization Council of Ministers. And it was good to have that meeting in person. And it not only dealt with issues of the Caribbean and tourism, but also dealt with long-standing issues of regional travel. And we were able to elect a new chair of the Caribbean Tourism Organization at the recent meetings. But apart from that, it was great networking. And I had the occasion to have some very good meetings. I don't want to speak of the aviation companies that I met with, but I had exclusive with them, and we have followed up with them with our compliance officer, Kendall Richardson, and myself with them. I have their personal numbers now, so they are just a WhatsApp away. And I also met with the president of the Caribbean Development Bank for breakfast meeting that lasted an hour and a half, and I just want to thank him for the time, and Mrs. Power for the time that they were able to afford me to have that meeting and have discussions of mutual interest.
Okay, so you see, this is the problem. You can't say all of that and not expect us to ask for an exclusive on Progress Report, because here's where you get the exclusives. But then you touch the Caribbean Development Bank, right, the CDB, and that's been floating around here, so I want to leave that alone where the CDB is concerned, because I don't want nobody to say that, you know, you had exclusive conversations with them about another issue, so you have to clear that up.
The Caribbean Development Bank has been a partner to Anguilla for a very long time. So express the gratitude and look at opportunities that we can have moving forward together, partnering with private sector entities in Anguilla in order to move forward. So it was a very good meeting. We spoke about issues that impacts the entire Caribbean region, and how we can partner with other countries to move a number of issues, whether it's energy, whether it's telecommunications, whether it's a number of private sector projects, the blue economy, fishing, farming, and what have you. So these are the things that we are very keen on progressing in, and that is why we're here on Progress Report.
All right, so you just had a breakfast meeting, and that was it. But I just want to make that.
But I want to actually.
No, next thing they're gonna say, well, you know what it is. So.
I want to actually follow up on that, because there was, you know, a lot of buzzy headlines I saw coming out of that conference. Minister of Tourism in Anguilla states X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And we get into some of those headlines. But one of the things I wanted to just backtrack, and you mentioned aviation and travel within the region, inter-regional travel, and we all know that has been a major headache for quite some time. One of the headlines that I remember coming out of that was the high cost of taxes and fees for intra-regional travel. Can you just give us a little insight on what some of those discussions were? Were there any sort of discussions on bringing those fees and taxes down to encourage regional tourism?
So one of the things that I must backtrack a little bit and say that afforded me the experience and opportunity when I served as a parliamentary secretary with responsibility for tourism from 2010 to 2015. I had occasion to be on several of these meetings, and I can recall, you know, persons in the respective islands speaking about Liat. And, you know, it was titled Leave Islands Anytime.
Lawyers and all transactions.
And the cost of Liat and what have you. We complain a lot about Liat. But once Liat left the space and could not no longer service the space, we realized the void that has been left. Now, so we have been talking about interregional travel for a very long time. I remember being at a conference in St. Vincent back in 2012 or 13, I believe it is. We discussed it. Ralph Gonzalez and ministers of finance and tourism and aviation were at those meetings, and we all discussed it. But one of the things, and it came up again, I said, listen, this is 12 years later since I've attended the first meeting relating to interregional travel. And 12 years later, we have not progressed it. And it came out in the IATA conference as well, because IATA was there with the aviation companies and what have you. And there was an interesting comment made by one of the aviation companies that do interregional travel in the Caribbean. And he said that if the ticket is $1 and you're traveling from Barbados to Guyana, for example, by the time the taxes and fees are placed on that ticket, it comes up to $350+. And that is just from government taxes and fees. So what we found, and this is not only for the non-self-governing territories, but also the independent states, is that the ministries of finance look at the dollars that they can make from the persons landing, the planes landing in their respective jurisdictions, without understanding the cumulative effect of that person entering their destination and spending in the destination, whether in accommodations, food, consumption, and what have you. It far outweighs anything that you receive from fees. So the idea was that we look at if you're doing interregional travel within the Caribbean basin, within the Caribbean basin exclusively, you remove or reduce those taxes and fees significantly so that you can facilitate the interregional travel. But then you have another effect of that. Case in point, when we came to office in 2020, I reached out to a number of airline companies. I know a lot of people have been complaining for many years about the Anguilla-St. Thomas route. And so I reached out to Cape Air, and we started the Anguilla-St. Thomas route, flying twice daily into Anguilla. The plane was practically flying empty.
Yeah.
One person, maybe two people sometimes, flying empty, back and forth. Aviation companies are not coming to your jurisdiction to give you a social contribution. It's about profit. It's about profit driven. And if you're not seeing the returns on your investment, you're going to pack up and leave. So that route has been underserved for many years, since the days of Mello and those guys. It has been underserved, even though there's a lot of people in the diaspora. But people in the diaspora will say, hey, will call me up and say, hey, what about a flight to Anguilla-St. Thomas? And that is when they want to fly. But they're not flying, they're not traveling every day, and because of that, the aviation companies are not going to fly the route. Right? If the route is not profitable, and that is why LIAT exited a number of jurisdictions because of profitability. So it comes down to more than just taxes and fees. It comes down to the desire. You have to build that market now, because it's easier for me to travel from Anguilla to Miami than to travel from Anguilla to Puerto Rico. Case in point, there's a Caribbean Tourism Organization meeting in Caribbean Marketplace, a very important Caribbean marketplace that should be taking place in Puerto Rico in the first week of October. In order for me to get to Puerto Rico, I have to fly to Miami, overnight in Miami, in order to get to Puerto Rico. If I want to go to Dominica for Creole Fest, it's easier for me to fly to Miami, fly to the US, and then fly to Dominica, rather than going trying to get to navigate to Dominica. So another issue that came up too is the whole idea, and this has been an idea that has been discussed for a number of years, fast ferry service through the region. I am not keen on that, and I made it clear that I'm not keen on that. I cannot see how it's going to be viable, because we're going to go on ferry to St. Martin, but we're not going to go on ferry to Dominica.
No,
we're not going to go to ferry to Trinidad, right? So these are things.
Come on. Right? We ain't even cruising.
That's a cruise. And we haven't touched those headlines as yet.
So that is an issue. That is something that was discussed. But I had the privilege of making a presentation. I think 3 countries were able to make presentations, the Cayman Islands being one, Barbados being another, and Anguilla being the next. So I say it's ABC, Anguilla, Barbados, Cayman Islands. And like I said, the countries came with their entourages. I went alone. We in Anguilla, we never have entourage, just a minister, But these countries travel with full entourage.
Barbados had their press.
Public relations, even stylists. In some instances, right? So I have to be my own stylist, and I feel bad, miserable at that. But be that as it may, so they made their presentations, and I made my presentation, and I must say, without blowing my own horn, I'm glad of the result of my presentation, because it has really and truly gone viral across the world.
Okay, so let me put something right here for you, because you're gonna jump over that presentation. I am sitting my lowly self in the office. I got several brethren in Jamaica. Here comes this headline. Boop, boop, my phone blew up. I was like, yeah, of course I agree. He said, you agree? I said, yeah. I said, we don't have the infrastructure.
No, we don't have the infrastructure.
I said, we can't build the infrastructure.
You
I'm talking about the one, but we're against it. I'm talking about the one that talks about cruise ships and that mass tourism. And then I click in the article, and somebody says, government of Jamaica, see here, this makes sense. Like, because they feel like their tourism product is watered down, abused. They feel disenfranchised in their own country. They like, for me, I would always have a problem. You said it, Gleneva. If you have those mass tourist cruise ships here, the mega cruise ships, you can have a situation practically every cruise day where there are more tourists, visitors on the island than there are residents on the island.
You get two of those that carry 6,000, 657.
Properly finished. Well, a lot of people don't understand it. I said it over and over. Even in growing our tourism product, you cannot grow the tourism product, diversify it in a silo. We have to have the infrastructure in our health. How are we going to take on a massive outbreak on a ship? What facilities and resources are going to be in there? The impact on the environment, everybody looked at these things. It just can't jump up and make a decision. And when I started like breaking it down, he was like, he wished that people would consider it and look and not just take what somebody throws on their throat and go after it ain't even a big dollar.
No, it's not big. But what was interesting is that a lot of different countries picked it up. And it was trending on Twitter. To my surprise, and I went to read the comments because somebody sent me the links, and I had to go and sign up for Twitter to be able to read the
I love
comments
it.
and
Love
read
it,
the comments.
finally.
And
So now I can tag you from the government
yeah,
page.
it seems so.
Perfect.
And so I still haven't figured out yet, but the comments were all positive. I can't say mostly positive, they're all positive, which was surprising. Then out of that, we had meetings. I had meetings with members of the cabinet in Cayman Islands, and also particular investors who were very keen on what I had to say as it relates to that and how we can grow the Caribbean as a whole. And what was interesting out of it is that the type of spend, the revenue, as opposed to how much the crews get to keep. So it was very fascinating. There's a lot of taxi drivers who say, we need crews so they can be busy all the time. But it's something that we need to study. We need to really look at it comprehensively. But what I can say is that in terms of the upmarket, high-end, luxury cruise lines that are 300 and less, this is something that we are always keen after, and we started that in 2011, I believe it is, and we want to just grow that pie. But because those people,
What's stopping us from growing that now?
nothing is stopping us from growing the pie. But again, it comes down to infrastructure, and infrastructure, you'll have to have an investment in infrastructure, and the government of Angola will not have the financial wherewithal to develop that infrastructure. So you'll have to look at investors to develop that particular infrastructure for that niche of cruise.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember those cruise ships like years ago as a child. I would stand on my grandmother's cistern, one of those outdoor cisterns, and we could see straight into Sandy Ground, and we can see the cruise ships, the small ones.
Yes.
So the small luxury ships aren't anything that are new to Angola.
Right, and you won't feel the impact. It won't impact the land-based tourism. You don't want to impact the land-based tourism. We have a special product, right? And this last season,
Don't talk about it.
this last season,
We're gonna get there.
this last season, and I said it openly in the Cayman Islands for the media and everybody to say that this upcoming season, barring any hurricanes and natural disasters, is going to outstrip this past season. And my goal as a Minister of Tourism is to ensure that we have the economy that is vibrant 12 months out of the year. And that is my goal. We come close to that goal this year in that the hotels are staying or remain open for a much shorter period. But next year it is my goal that at least 2 to 3 of the major hotels are open year round.
Okay, awesome.
And that is something that I've been working on. I don't want to make any premature announcements
Of
yet.
course, you don't do that.
But I can tell you that we are well on our way to doing that. And that will ensure that you have an economy that people can really enjoy through the year.
I heard a renowned taxi driver said last night, this is how close it was. He said last night in an open forum, he said, if you want to know how Angola doing, you can't find out staying home.
Or you can't find no stay in the valley.
In the valley. Right?
Yeah.
He said take a drive. But he's right. Take a drive now if you want to find out how Angola doing. I don't understand, I'm not tooting any horn. But I look at certain key dynamics if I want to look at where our economy is. Because a lot of people don't understand economy is just the flow of cash, the rotation of cash. When people ain't spending, you have a problem. But I see restaurants expanding. Maybe now I might get a table for 2 at...
I can't get a table at Sharky's. I want to complain right now. I cannot get a table at Sharky's.
I can't get a table at Sharky's.
Listen, I love the lobster cakes. I can't get none either.
So 3 of us here can't get a table at Sharky's.
Yeah, but look at Taste's point of view.
Taste's point of view, brand new.
Right?
Listen, and there, you see movement there. Like every restaurant, I understand Hibernia is doing well in the east. I understand, up on Island Harbor Beach,
Ben's
Falcon
Pit Stop
and
and
Ben's and Ollie's in Island Harbor doing well. You're seeing people moving around. The taxi drivers, they are saying they had a bumper of a bumper season last season, and they're excited about
the charter boat operators.
And the charter boat operators.
And you see the ferry boat operators now are seeing the numbers that, in this, the ferry boat operators were out of the general economy for a long time, for 2 years. And from the time we got in office in 2020, we've been pushing hard to get that service up and operational. But it was not only dependent on us. We had to look at our partners across the water. Once the go was given, we jumped right into it. And I just want to place on record my gratitude to Joe Davis because he took the initial hits. You know,
yes, when they started that merry-go-round back again.
So now you see everybody's benefiting significantly from
let me just put a plug right here because it's my conviction. I stand by it. Access is something that we've tossed around for a very long time. Yes, we have our charter boats. Yes, we have our ferry to Marigo, but we have local carriers that fly as well. So there are options.
Yeah.
And I feel that there are more and more options to get to Anguilla.
Yeah,
you got American Direct here. You can fly into St. Martin. You can charter boat over. You can Marigo boat over. You can fly over. You can fly into St. Kitts. Trans-Anguilla is operating out of St. Kitts. So we have options.
But also you can fly into the Dominican Republic and to Santo
then
Domingo.
take Sky.
And Sky from the US into Santo Domingo and from Santo Domingo to Anguilla and vice versa. You know, so there's many options. But apart from that, in the discussions with American Airlines, some of them obviously are confidential for whatever reasons, proprietary. But we see starting this season, this festive season, we'll be having 11 flights a week. And that is significant. So today we will be able to announce, sorry?
I'm trying to say how much days, because they got 11 days in the week.
No.
So that means you got more than one flight a day.
Yes, we have 4 days that we will have 2 flights in those days.
Any overnighting?
The intricate details we have, but there's going to be all the flight and a later flight.
All the flight.
So it allows you to go to Miami today in the morning and come back the following afternoon if you choose to. Right?
Can't tell these people these things because everybody don't calculate and planning.
Listen, I saw that headline today and I go, wow. And just for the listening public, just to kind of give the breakdown, I think we saw starting October 1st, we're going to be looking at 4 days a week.
Yep.
November 2nd?
7 days.
7 days and then 7 days and then 2 on Saturday.
Then we're going, and then we're going to
and December 18th.
Yeah, we're going from there to
every day, twice a day on Mondays, Wednesdays,
Friday,
Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
And I just think that is amazing.
We made the announcement early so that people know.
Book,
people know.
And the flights are available for booking right now.
And the flights are available for booking right now. But the partnership with American Airlines have been tremendous. And it says something about, because one of the things that we represented is that we don't do minimum revenue guarantees. I've spoken to several airline companies. When we get on the line, we start to have the conversation. The first thing out of the mouth is support, financial support. And I would say from the very beginning, no minimum revenue guarantees. We're not paying for empty seats. Because when you pay for empty seats, there's no motivation to put full those seats because you know the revenue is going to be guaranteed in the rate. So what we can do, we can help with marketing. Okay. We can market as well.
You market, doing
yes,
that
we market, you market. It has to be on the back of the strength of our product.
Yeah.
And so American Airlines took a chance, right? They took the chance on us, and from the time they made the announcement, the bookings have been solid, and because of those solid bookings, they have been able to expand the flights. We've had one cancellation for that time, and that was on this Saturday, and I was one of the victims of that cancellation.
Yes,
and it was, and I'll tell you the truth of the matter is that when they asked for persons to volunteer to step off the flight, I was the first person with my hand up.
You because I wasn't doing that way.
I wasn't doing that way. But within 20 minutes of me saying I'm not taking the flight, they canceled the flight for good reason, right?
Course.
And
then they were here on Monday, so you didn't even have to wait
on Monday. It was an interesting flight. Monday? It was an interesting flight. It was an interesting flight. It made me question, why do I do this? Yes.
Wow. Well, I guess that's why I didn't hear from you because you're connected and say what's going on, how the country running, but I ain't getting none of that. I saw him 2 days after.
It was interesting.
And you notice he's converted to wearing bow ties now.
Yes.
So, but let me tell you something that I don't think a lot of people are considering, and maybe the tourist board.
I said just before, I said, God, it's in your hands.
It's in your hands.
It's in your hands.
Wow. So, and maybe the tourist board need to consider this because we talked about this off the record, behind already. Like when you think about it, in all honesty, and I don't want to trouble our brethren across the waters, our counterparts, but you can very well see people flying to Anguilla. That final destination is St. Martin.
It's already started.
and connecting with
It's
all the
already started.
carriers.
But one of the things that you're keen about is also having direct flights out of New York. And that is something that we're working on diligently up to the day we are sending emails and having conversations about looking at having flights in coming out of New York. Now, it'd be way premature to have an announcement on the flight of New York because the airline companies, they have what they would do is that they will have their flight plan, and they would also have their schedule, and they will have their markets, the markets that they enter, and that takes some time.
Yeah,
so even if they were considering flying to Angola out of New York,
yeah.
it's not going to happen next week, next month. It may happen sometime in the middle or later part of next year. So it takes some time in terms of the route preparation and what have you.
Yes. So
But
you're going to do it in a month's time and announce?
No, you can't. It just takes time. Even when the announcement was made back in 2019 about JetBlue flying to Angola, it was an impossibility because one of the things that they were looking at is the airstrip, the PCN of the airstrip, and all the other associated things. And what they were saying to the government of Angola at that time is that with 2021, if you have these things in place, then we will consider flying to Angola. So when the announcement was made that we're going to New York, the four-man crew, which included the former Minister Curtis Hutchinson, the chair of the tourist board, Ms. Donna Banks, Larry Franklin Plum, the Secretary of Tourism, and Carter Gunkana, the Parliamentary Secretary of Tourism. They went to New York, I believe, with the knowledge that they were not going to sign an agreement with JetBlue. And because the documentation proved that was not a factual thing. So the people of Angola had never held them accountable for the taxpayers'
What
dollars.
documentation are you speaking about?
The documentation in terms of the whole contractual agreement and what have you. So
What contractual agreement? I need you to be specific.
No, there was a contractual agreement that was considered in terms of financial support, revenue guarantees, improvements to the airport, improvement to the strip, lengthening of the strip, and all of these things. So that announcement for the 19th of December 2019 was not possible. It was not doable, and I do not understand even to this day why that announcement was made, knowing that it was not possible.
I'm going to ask you one more time because progress report is about the facts in a conversation and update. You're saying that there was a document. There is a document that speaks to the strip being lengthened, the minimum revenue guarantee, all these things that had to be signed before a flight could come here.
And a confidentiality agreement that you could not announce the flight without the mutual partners agreeing to it.
So what was a flight? Never mind. Done with that.
I was just about to say.
These are the facts and just the facts.
Okay.
But
Alright.
I also want to say that a lot of work is being done. So, for example, we announced earlier the airport master plan.
Yes.
That has been published and widely circulated. As a matter of fact, when we speak to airline companies, including those companies,
they referencing it now.
So we produce that to show them that we are serious about the development of the aerodrome. Just today, because the Minister of Culture, the Honorable Diane Kentish Rogers, she's keen on developing a new cultural center, new Carnival Village. And I have my team who's supposed to be working on that, but that's on hold right now temporarily because they're working on the existing terminal to do some improvements to the existing terminal, because while we're building the new terminal, we want to ensure that the terminal is efficient as possible and the safety concerns that was raised by the regulatory bodies are addressed.
Yeah, but so outside of that, you have an increase in traffic too.
So in on certain days, we just cannot, the terminal just cannot handle the volume of traffic that comes through the airport. So that work is ongoing right now. We started that work a month ago.
Let me put a plug here. Is there any way to streamline that? I know we probably have to ask the Minister of Home Affairs this, because he talked about the application thing for entry and stuff. Like, why is our process for a tourist destination, everybody come look at the US, have their checks to make? I would believe, APIS and all these things that I have knowledge of are sent ahead. You know who you're checking for, what you're looking for. Why does it probably still take so long to process the passengers?
I don't think that the passengers take a long time to process the passenger at the Clayton J. Lloyd International, because I came in on Saturday, and every time I come in, I always try to be the last.
But only American came in on Monday. I've seen instances where Seaborn would have been on the ground. That Saturday time, it's bananas.
But that is to be expected because the airport, the terminal was not built for the type of traffic that we see now at the airport.
Okay, so
you have a situation where you have seaborne on the ground,
Yeah.
right? You have a situation where you have Sky on the ground. You have a situation where you have Transangular and Angular Air Services on the ground. You have a situation where you have Aurora on the ground
And
an
American
American landing.
Yeah.
And so when you have in private jets,
Yeah, that's 500 people.
so when you have that volume at an airport that can only accommodate 80, 90 at a time, that says it all. So this is why we're moving forward quickly, cautiously but quickly, with the development of a new airport. So as you know, the surveying has already been done.
Yes.
As you know, the geotechnical studies have already been done.
Can I say something about that? Sorry
Yes.
for cutting you off. It was funny. So I was running this little social experiment because I firmly believe that people does hear and forget. So the minister mentioned it at the press conference. He said these things were gonna start. I just posted the pictures. Everybody messaging the government Facebook page. It'll be nice to know what's going on. Because it's the pictures are in an album that says Clayton Jail Line Airport redevelopment. And they're asking to know what's going on because they're seeing these pictures now. And their press release was done and stuff, but further down the page. Because I was trying to figure out, like how many people really following, how many people really paying attention. But what that was doing for me too is trying to see how much people are vested in the entire process. Because I went and we spoke to the guys. In some areas, what you had to do the geothermal and the surveying. Geotechnical and the surveying. Of course, because you're putting on a massive building.
Yeah.
Can the areas, what soil do we have here?
Yeah.
In some areas, the guy told me he had to go down 10 feet before he can get solid. Some was another 3 and 6. So now when you go and dig a foundation for this massive building, that's what you have to do.
Yeah. So what this study is seeking to do is to make sure that the building can be a firm building that wouldn't crack up and fall apart once you put it down.
Yeah.
Because Anguilla have a lot of caves as well.
Yes.
So what they were doing is testing to see the density and the strength and the capacity for the area. So
Also
once that is done,
we've seen some earthquakes as well.
yeah. So once that was done, that was completed. So now we're moving to the next phase. Consultants was on island last week. We're moving to the next phase of designing and drawing and what have you. That once
That's
that is
going to
done,
tender.
well, the consultants they have the contract to do all of that. So that is going to be done.
And those consultants are out of the UK. Where are those
They're
consultants?
out of the United States of America, mostly out of the United States of America. But what I can say is that the design is going to be an Anguillian design.
So
Which means that Anguillians are going to be participating tremendously in the whole design of the building. Take for example, down at Bloom Bay Ferry Terminal, that was solely designed by Anguillian architects. Raoul Van der Poel, he designed that.
Beautiful building.
The team in the Ministry of Infrastructure
Managing the project.
Not only manage the project, the whole survey, engineering and civil works and so forth. They did all of that. This is the first project that we did from start to scratch, and because of Tim Foy. Tim Foy, we had basically lost that project because there was a playing around of the Blowing Bay Ferry Terminal with a particular outside entity to basically go into a contractual agreement with this outside entity to develop the Blowing Bay Ferry Terminal. Even as coming to office, we are under tremendous pressure from persons who are affiliated with the outside entity as it relates to the Blowing Bay Ferry Terminal. So when we started discussion with Tim Foy basically helped guide me as it relates to how to get this project back. We were able to do it, and the team in infrastructure said, "Listen, we can do this," and I had full confidence that they can do it, and they
Minister,
delivered.
you not to cut you off. You keep saying this, and I need some clarity. What you mean when you mean you said it on lives that the project was lost. You're saying it here again that it wasn't gonna happen, but everybody's saying. And I'm not being the devil's advocate. I'm not being like a partner or put. But I want to understand because everybody is saying that we're gonna get a terminal anyhow.
Well, yes, but with a big difference because if you look at this terminal, when this terminal is completed, funded for by the taxpayers of the United Kingdom, this terminal belongs to the people of Anguilla with no liabilities whatsoever, no loans.
Careful now.
No loans. We don't have to pay back for it. We don't have to pay anybody for it. It belongs to the people of this country solely, lien free, no loans, no contingent liabilities.
So the other route would have
route would have been a 30-year concession. What that means is that they would have owned it for 30 years and the revenue would have gone to them.
So they could have go there and raise the price on the boats and we had to pay
They
them.
could have raised the prices up without even having to have a consultation based on the existing, I can't say agreement, draft agreement. So
I got to ask a question because I really can't spend money that I ain't got. Right? So, is this the same thing happening in the airport that the Anguilla's gonna own the airport?
Yes, Anguilla's gonna own the airport.
Okay, because then I don't want Lenny, but she done plan 3 Miami
The
trips
people
already.
of Anguilla will the people of Anguilla will own the airport, and so it is important. What is important to understand is that the vision is not my vision. The vision for this development is not mine. This was hatched from way back long before me. James Ronald Webster, he was exchanging lands in his government with, from people in Birmingham in the valley in order to develop an international airport in Birmingham.
Yeah.
When the late Albina Lake Hodge was the Minister of Infrastructure and Social Development in the Emil Gum's government, her and Sir Emil Gums penned a letter to the government of Taiwan stating that we are a country, a small country, on the threshold of independence in 1984, before she passed. On the threshold of independence, and pre-independence infrastructure is needed, namely an international airport. And then, following Emil Gums' tenure as the chief minister, the late Honorable Hubert Benjamin Hughes became the chief minister. And he too continued the whole thrust towards an international, transatlantic commercial international airport for the Birmingham area. As a matter of fact, the French investors had already done geotechnical studies and they had come up with a preliminary design in 1999. But
is that around? I'd love to see.
Yeah,
that.
it's still around. It's still at the Ministry of Infrastructure. You can
I'm
still
coming
see
here
it.
tomorrow.
Yeah, you can definitely see it. You can ask Shanice and he can provide it to you.
But Shane is done blind point.
Yeah, but he's not. He's there too. Okay. But then in March of 2000, the government changed, and the new administration headed by Mr. Osborne Fleming and Mr. Victor Banks did not see the need for a commercial airport, and they abandoned that plan. And then when the government changed again, when Hubert Hughes came to office, he again wanted to move forward with the development of the airport. What I can say is that the avenue in which he was taken was not the right avenue for public-private partnerships or development of an airport, right? He was a bulldog. Yeah, he wanted done now.
I wonder.
Right?
I wonder.
I wanted done now, but there are certain processes in which you have to take. And I know, to his credit, they say you should never credit your political opponents, but Curtis Richardson, as the Minister of Infrastructure, he too wanted, because he came up under the Anguilla United Movement. Yes. He was a member of the Anguilla United Movement. He too had the idea to develop an airport, but his political colleagues did not see that vision.
Okay.
And so only in 2017, when Boris Johnson came to Anguilla as a foreign secretary, he said in an interview with Keystone Graves, the first priority for Anguilla should be in an airport, because he was scared flying to Anguilla.
Yeah.
Right. So then Mr. Banks in September of 2017 made an announcement in front of Parliament that we are going right away, quickly ahead, to expand the airport to 6,000 feet to facilitate commercial flights. Here we are 5 years later, and we are still having that conversation. But one of the important steps we were able to make is the airport master plan, because any modern airport has to have a master plan. And these are steps in which you have to take. So I've heard in the past where the former Minister of Infrastructure, for example, criticized the Procurement Act and all of these things in the framework for Fiscal Responsibility and Sustainability Act, saying that's a hindrance. Not a hindrance. These pieces of legislation prohibits corruption and politicians making side deals and what have you, and so forth. It has an open process in terms of the tendering of projects, and that gives everybody an opportunity to bid for these projects, and if you're qualified to be able to do these projects. And we've seen this under this administration, persons, whether they be doing little side roads with a roll asphalt, or whether they're doing the Bloom Point Ferry Terminal, who have never participated in the process before, and now they have opportunities because it's an open and transparent process. And it's a tool. The Framework for Fiscal Responsibility and Sustainability Act and the Procurement Act are tools in order to move things forward. It's not a hindrance. It is a good thing, and so I embrace it, because I was part of the administration who brought that into being, right? Back in 2012 or 13, I believe it was. And I support it still, because one of the things that is prohibitive, right, in the country's national development is if that of political corruption, because political corruption, it helps one or two of the supporters and the politician themselves, but on a whole the country suffers because of political corruption. So I am very grateful for that legislation. We were one of the last countries, we were the last Caribbean overseas territory to sign on that legislation, because he was using his wisdom. He wanted a development aspect to it, to the frame of fiscal sustainability, fiscal responsibility. So he wanted a development component to it, and that's why he fought and did not sign on to it in the initial stages, right? Just to ensure that that aspect of it was included, and we are thankful for that. So on those shoulders we stand. So like I said in the beginning, it's not my vision, but it is my goal to see the vision carried through in this term.
So
our next term is never guaranteed, so you have to do everything. You have to do everything you can do in this term, because even at the Valley Main Road, I was severely criticized when I said we want to move forward with the development of the Valley Main Road. People were on social media bashing, and they still bash to this day. But the road is there, and it's a good road. It's well designed, well engineered.
I can't agree with you that it's a good road.
And yes, and apart from that, it makes the town feel and look different. When you enter,
I'm not satisfied. I'm not going to cut you off right there. I'm not satisfied. It had need to go wrong, past Wild Blake, go down by Lake. So, I see people walking in the morning, in night time, they're enjoying the sidewalk, they don't have to worry. They have we
have lights coming here too.
I know you have the things coming.
Yeah,
I want the other side done, because what happens on Progress Report is you look right there in the camera and you say what you want.
But I want to say this. though. The goal is to do the entire block.
Okay.
Right? But there are some other projects that we are also working on in tandem. There's a Blowing Point indoor sporting facility that I've spoken about time and time again. And the funding has been secured, the plans have been approved. It's been a long journey and a hard journey. This has been the hardest project to start that I have ever had, whether in private life or professional life. But it will be started one way or the next.
Okay. I'll tell you something about that before we switch the topic. I know we have a few things to touch.
It will be started and completed under this administration.
Okay, good. That's all I can say. I said that's nice. Go ahead.
No, I really wanted to kind of jump back, because you speak about a number of projects. Airport Master Plan, I've had the opportunity to look at that, and I know that there are phases that we're looking at. And you say you want to have it completed in this term.
I want to have the terminal, the parking, the new warehousing,
I'm excited
parallel
about that.
taxiway. I want to have the tarmac expanded, all of these things done in this stuff.
And I think that's possible. So I just have these really unique opportunities that people don't know about. So when they come here, they take pictures, they ask all kind of questions. So
you need somebody to hold your camera.
Yes, you can come. You come, because then we can get even more content for Progress Report. But he mentioned a few things there that I think people need to understand. The first phase of this project that we're looking at is a new terminal, new parking lot, the tarmac expanded. So I believe, and I hope I can say it, and if I can't say it, then somebody will call me down to Old Town, to the governor's house. Kendall might call me from the ministry and tell me, shut up your mouth. But I think there's a plan to move the current warehouse where customs is. That'll be parking. There's plans to put in a parallel taxiway and move the customs warehouse to the other side. So there's like a lot of moving parts.
But the work has already started, as you know. But there's a lot of moving parts to it, because ultimately the development of our airport brings economic sustainability.
Yes,
and there are things that we need to sustain our economy. We need to grow our population, of course. We need to have a vibrant economy that doesn't have its ebbs and flows, doesn't stop at the end of August and restarts in November, December. So these are the goals, and these are the goals that can be achieved and can be achieved now.
Okay.
So, timelines, timeframes. When can we expect to see the beginning of a construction of a new terminal?
I would say in the first quarter of 2023.
Okay.
In the first quarter of 2023.
And construction is expected to take
2 years.
Okay.
So we're looking at 2025, or early 2025, we can enter into that building. I would say that the contractor, Mr. Gums, Leroy Gums, Leroy's Construction, have done a tremendous job.
I love it.
Tremendous job, and I
You
want
want
to
to
give
talk
him
about
his
clean work?
Yeah.
We going down there, man. I promise to carry up
Tremendous
other places I know.
And he
All right,
has
we
come
gotta
back.
go down there.
They have come back, and they have not had any delays. You know, they have been on the gas from the get-go, and the delays happen at the beginning. And look, even though the delays happen at the beginning, they're still going to deliver on time. We are going to be welcoming visitors through that port for this Christmas. That's a guarantee.
So you're telling me, all I want to know, I can put a little Ivan. That's Ivan saying. So you're telling me that when Anguillians decide that they're going to go away for their pre-Christmas activities.
On the 19th of December? It's the 19th of December.
I didn't say when, but your pre-Christmas activities, and we're coming back and we're utilizing the port. We no longer have to trek all the way up. We're closer to, we get off the wharf and we get right into a brand new terminal for Christmas.
Yes, and I want to say you jolt my memory just now when you say that, because one of the initial ideas that was promulgated 2, 3, 4 years ago was that the building would have been all the way up adjacent to the existing building, right? So you have to trek all the way up. And from the time I got in office, I said, no, we're going way back down, because it's very difficult for persons who have wheelchairs, who are impaired in whatever way, to trek all the way up. So we're going on.
You put a tip with a guard straight up.
Right? Not necessarily so, you know.
Yeah, because that's a long way to take your bag.
So we're going to go back down, because the argument was being made, not by the technical people, because I think for the most part the technical people agreed with me, but some officials, you know, out of the UK, was that, in terms of wave action and what have you, but I said we had terminals here before, right? And the wave action didn't destroy them, because the roof came off, the wooden roof came off from the old terminal. This wouldn't be that situation. So the wave action is not an issue. That's one. And secondly, we can build to accommodate. And eventually everybody saw it as, and we went back to that original footprint. So now, and as you can see, you have wheelchair access and exits on both sides. So whether you're coming in or going out, there's a lot of components to this terminal.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, there's a lot of components to this terminal that people are going to enjoy. For example, the departure and arrival areas are going to be tremendously expanded. The departure lounge alone, right, is bigger than the old town.
Oh wow!
Much bigger than old town.
We're going tomorrow.
We reconfigured the whole design.
Do I need a hard hat?
No,
yes.
no.
As big as it is, we don't have any columns in it, right? So without having the columns, now you have this open space. You have this beautiful view of the ocean, the mountains over at St. Martin.
Geneva is just, when you sit in there, when you walk in, so I think the ride up is gonna feel like everybody's gonna feel like a VIP. So what they were doing recently is I went there and I took some pictures, and you can check them out on Facebook. The what do they call it, the asphalt that was there going on, they're breaking that up now because they're concreting in there, but they're doing one section now because the runoff has to go around the building. They put in the drains, right, and it's gonna be concrete, so you don't step out in your heels. If you decide that you want to look fabulous going to St. Martin, and you step out in your heels, Khloe Kardashian says she want to take a boat and come here. When she step out, she ain't stepping out on a rock in thing anymore. She's stepping out on concrete, right? But then you walking in and there's this, I don't know if it's travertine, Grand, I know it, but the tires look nice, they're great. And when you step inside, it's just
biggest tires you ever see, right?
Biggest tire, but then everything is just glass in front of you.
Yeah.
But here's the beauty about it. Those glass are louvers. I don't know who manufacture those windows. It's bigger than the TV. They're one of the louvers, and they open, but the whole place is air conditioned, central air. And then I tell them to paint it white, but they painted it grey. And I was like, man, why you painting it grey? But I saw.
I'm just glad it ain't green.
I saw the grey, but it's a light grey, and the way they have little white accents in it, it's amazing. I'll tell you the honest truth, right? Raul Vanderpool did an excellent job. Raul.
Yes.
He did an excellent job drying this terminal. He was down there the other day.
2 days.
He turned it around. Yeah.
Wow.
But I am beyond impressed with the level of construction management that we've had on this project.
Yeah.
The contractors that we have there. Me and all the guys, when I go down there, we have a good laugh. We joke. They say, see this yet? They see this yet? Them can't wait.
But some other changes that we made to that building from the initial design is that we also put in systems.
Yes.
Right? And storage.
Oh, down below?
Significant storage.
Down below? You could have a party down there.
Yeah, significant storage. Significant storage.
Like it's just underneath they build up, but underneath they didn't fill it.
We utilize the space, and I love to utilize basement space. You know this.
Yeah.
You know, and we utilize that space tremendously. So
and there's room for solar on the roof.
Yeah, there's room for solar on the roof.
Awesome.
We prepare for all that stuff because this is somewhere we're going to go, and it's just a beautiful.
It's a blessing.
Beautiful building, and it's going to be an efficient building. One of the things that we're working on, because that was not considered originally, is a nice taxi stand.
Yes.
Where taxi drivers can be comfortable, you know, as people come in and going out. So these are the things that we are working on. Claudius is working on that, and it's going to be completed, and then we just take it to council to get approved.
Hurry up, get it done. I don't want us to wait to open for a taxi stand.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's just going to be tremendous in terms of the whole. When we sat down, we had the discussions and so forth, right? Even with immigration, with the tourist board, with customs and what have you. When we sat down, we had a discussion. We discussed how everything's going to be, how the taxi dispatcher is going to be situated, where the taxi dispatcher should be situated, the IT and so forth, so that people can swipe their cards and pay whatever they need, where the concessionaire stands is going to be, you know, the inside, outside, rental car companies, where the triage is going to be, so if somebody is sick, how the ambulance can come in and pick them up and so forth and take care of them, the way the VIP is going to be situated, how you're going to deal with that. All of these things were considered and discussed.
And I know you were going to say something just now and give you that, but you know what impressed me about the bill? I know they were thinking future when they built something to house the garbage. They ain't just, not for real, they ain't just housing, putting the green garbage pans there. You won't see that when you come to the town.
No, you won't.
That's when I know that they were serious.
We want to create, even though it's built for us, by us, you know, we want to create a good impression.
Right.
You know, when people come to Anguilla for the first time, we want to create a good impression. When people go to St. Martin and they come to Anguilla, they go to St. Bart's and they come to Anguilla, they got to say, wow.
Yeah.
You know, and wherever you go, I'm going to tell you this, right? I've been to almost every island in the Caribbean, right? And I can tell you there's a lot of ferry terminals across the Caribbean. A lot. None is going to be like this ferry terminal. We're going to lead the way in every sphere. And this is the goal, this is the ambition, and this is what we see manifesting now.
Okay.
I like that. And I'll tell you what, because one of the things that previously you would hear, you know, Anguilla's a 5-star destination, a luxury destination. And a lot of times it came back, we have luxury hotels, but not luxury amenities.
Mm-hmm.
You're not entering into luxury facilities. So I am excited to hear about the upgrades and the whole new terminal at Blum Point, what is to come, and I look forward to what those designs look like, what is to come at the Clayton J. Lloyd International.
And we can't forget Lloyd's Aviation and the infrastructure that he's putting in terms of the FBO, and where the private jets clientele will be able to traverse. And that's going to be an important component of the whole overall development. I told him, listen, you're going to plaster and paint that wall, right? And he has agreed not only to plaster and paint the wall, but also to landscape in front of that wall that blocks out for the security purposes for the private jets and so forth. So all that area is going to be landscape and what have you. And
so I hope that means, Minister, that you're going to landscape. I'll come around there by the coconut trees, and you're going to probably put on a little green space there. So
where's that?
When you go into the airport now, because Lloyd is going to put your place over there in that
so
area
just,
before.
So you're talking just west of the
east, just west of fire, east of Lloyd. I hope you're going to flatten out that grass there by the fire. You're going to put in a little park, so if the flight's delayed, the parents don't have to have the children run around.
Well, you remember,
outside.
you got to remember too that we have to create employee parking, which is going to be different from the regular parking. So
you're going to be paying for parking now.
Yeah, paid parking now. So you have to be paying for parking. Great, but you know, this is something that is usual in every including.
No, I'm not saying money again a bad thing.
Right. Yes. But also, in terms of Blowing Point, the entry into Blowing Point coming out of that ferry terminal, we want to beautify that entire area coming all the way up. So we're going to be reaching out to the residents of Blowing Point as well for their cooperation in terms of the beautification. And I know Blowing Point have a lot of Roman goats and what have you, and appealing.
No, stop right there. Sorry, Minister. Team Blowing Point. I came around the corner in South Hill. There's goats.
Which calm is that?
Last night, Blowing Point got goats wrong by at Mayside, going to the basketball court.
Yeah.
It got goats Jeremiah Gums Highway, and I ran into some goats in South Hill.
And they got sheep around Coakley's place, all around that area. Got sheep, flocks of sheep as well.
How you dealing with that?
But I think what's interesting, I want to, because it's always interesting to me, because we speak about the stray and roaming, well, I don't know if they're stray, but roaming goats. But it's always funny because there's a big goat sign that is there. So on the one hand, we are acknowledging that they're goats, but then on the other, we are saying that there's a problem. I just
It's
want
unlawful, actually. It's unlawful in Anguilla to have roaming animals.
But there's a lovely big sign.
Yeah, it's a sign.
And the guests stop and take pictures with the goats.
How do we?
Well, one of the things that we have to understand too is that even though we know it's unlawful, we know that it's a problem, and in the absence of enforcement by the enforcement authorities, you have to warn people of these goats so they may just start out suddenly.
Oh yeah, because they were laying on the road last night.
Guess what? Goat meat tastes good.
Listen, I was on a post. I've been tempering myself because I noticed, right, we had a lot of rain recently. There's wild Moses everywhere. So you're going to have a lot of goat meat selling this Christmas.
Well,
because
every time I talk about goats, I get calls cussing me about the goat from goat owners, right? But I too have suffered the ravages of roaming goats. But,
yeah, because you're a planter.
But you know, some...
You cook any of them? Tell us.
I am mindful of the time. But what I can say is that Blowing Point historically accommodated over 90% of our arrivals. Those numbers have shifted, of course, as you can appreciate. And it even brings about the opportunities for the boat operators, and especially the charter boat operators, in terms of excursions and diversifying their product. And you see them diversifying their product offerings as well. But when you come out of that ferry terminal, you want to be able to drive along, coming out of Blowing Point, and just seeing beauty. And like I said, we're going to be appealing by this medium. We're also appealing to property owners, to cooperate and do as much as we can in terms of enhancement of Blowing Point, leading from the ferry terminal in particular, into especially through Spring Path and what have you.
So now that you mentioned that, I know you're going.
I want to read. I'm mindful of time, but I really want to get to two very important bits, because you spoke about the charter operators and excursions, and I know traditionally those left from the cove. And I wanted to touch on that and how impactful that wharf in the cove is to fishermen.
How did they get to it though?
They have to use a helicopter now.
But that's what I was about to ask. What is being done or considered for that access to that wharf?
Well, that is a challenge right now because I've had occasion, along with Minister Kenneth Hodge, technical people from planning, lands, environment, to go down to the cove and see the severity of the erosion there. It's over 100 feet of beach have been lost in that area. There's literally no access to that pier anymore. All right, by driving, you probably have to swim. I have to use a slither between Aurora and the ocean to get to that pier. And that is an issue that we have to tackle. Just today in Cabinet, the Premier and us, we discussed how we can mitigate the damage there. And one of the things that we have to do is beach rehabilitation. And I know for the most part, you hear people saying, oh, is let God do his thing, he's going to take it away and he's going to bring it back. But I can tell you, as a child going to Meads Bay, we used to walk around that rock that separates the two little beaches on Meads Bay over at Malihana. We used to literally walk around that rock.
You can do it now.
And now you got to swim.
No, you can do it today and tomorrow. Right. I know by weekend because the sand coming with the storm.
Also, did sand come in?
Yeah, you literally can walk around.
Sand come back with the sand. But I want to say this too. My Uncle Freddie, said that when they were youngsters, they used to walk from Meads Bay all the way around to Long Bay, around that beach. So over the years, the beach have continued to disappear and not be returned. And I make the point all the time. If it was not for Cap Jaluka, Mondes Bay would have been long gone. Because in 1995, Mondes Bay disappeared, and in 1999, it was gone. and Mandizwe Capchiluka owners we could walk under the foundations of those buildings. So they had to put in a seawall, backfill it, and dredge the sand back to the beach and do beach nourishment. Beach nourishment is nothing new, because even in Florida, in order to sustain their product, they have been doing beach nourishment for the beaches in Florida and all around the world. If you go to the Cayman Islands, you go to Bahamas, in particular Bahamas, you see not only beach nourishment being done, but also a series of breakwaters. And those breakwaters down at Barnes Bay have worked. We see it. If you fly over, you can see how those have worked, because the divers said that there's a cliff offshore where the sand, after Hurricane Lenny in 1999, went over that cliff and was never able to come back, and wasn't able to come back. It wasn't possible. So, beach nourishment is something, if we want to sustain our beaches, the sand that is out there in the ocean that's going to go to Dominican Republic or St. Martin or somewhere else over wave action, we have to utilize that sand before it disappears from us altogether. So one of the things that we have to look at is how we can rehabilitate that Cove Beach to bring it back to its lustfulness that it once had. Because the beach is gone.
It's gone.
It's literally gone. As a matter of fact, Smokies, that had a huge beach in front of it, is now breaking off, the foundation is breaking off into the ocean, because it has undermined the foundations of Smokies, and now it's undermined around the building, where the point is that soon the ocean and the pond is going to be one.
Yeah,
and that is the severity of the damage, not by any man, because it wasn't sand mining, not by man-made, but by the natural elements of global warming, rising sea levels, and wave action has done. So we have to do all we can do to protect Anguilla, protect all the resources, which includes our natural resources.
And I know we are
you
out of time, but I'm going to take some liberty. I say I get to run the show, so I'm going to take a little liberty.
You run the show.
The one port that we did not get to, the Road Bay port. We have a new jetty. I think I saw. Ivan teases me because I'm not very active on Facebook anymore.
Me either, so and don't be ashamed.
But I do check your WhatsApp statuses for updates. Anything that's important, it's there. So I think I saw somewhere, and it may not have been you, but I saw somewhere that either Monday gone or Monday before, the first boat docked at that. Are we going to see that pier being the one that's... So we're going to speak about that one, and then we're going to speak about the one down at the police station a bit. Are we going to see that new jetty being utilized?
More and more.
Okay.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I have a place on record. I had never supported the idea of developing the port facility in Sandy Ground. I always thought that it should be relocated, and Sandy Ground should be made for the residents and for tourism purposes and development and what have you. I didn't think that it was a good use of, but it is there. And in speaking to the engineers and designers, they say it's going to be there for at least 50 years. So I have a slight feeling, based on the fact that I'm 50 years, I am only going to see it for another 50 years. By the time I'm 100 years old,
Then you can say I tell her so.
but
are there any? Because I heard, and I try not to do that here, but I heard some whisperings about whether or not there was some issues with the jetty, some continuous dredging that needed to happen.
Well, this has always been my concern. Now, the port is there, so now we have to make it work, right? There may be a need for continuous dredging because they did a lot of dredging, and obviously sand is going to come back, and where that sand is going to come from, that's one. But that aside, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a coastal engineer. I don't want to speak something that I have no knowledge of.
Right. Okay.
But we have to make the dock work. The offshore works was done. Onshore works have not been done. And there's a lot of onshore works that needs to be done. We need new warehouse, we need a new facility, because the existing warehouse is leaking, it's old, it's falling apart, concrete is falling out of the roof, you can see the steel. So I've made a representation that this is what we need to do. I don't think that anybody's adverse to that. So there needs to be a whole plan as it relates to transitioning the entire port facility from the existing area to this new area. Now, the old port, obviously we're going to use it for whether you want to dock your yacht, whether you want to dock the small cruise lines into that facility, and the dock over at the John O's. We have done some rehabilitation work and that dock to ensure that for the upcoming season it'll be ready for use, because that's a very important dock, especially for the tenders, the small boats and what have you that take people out on excursions. So that is where we are right now with that. But at the same time, we want to develop a new facility over at Janos that's going to extend even further out, maybe another 100 feet out, so that it can do a lot more.
Okay. Sounds good.
Great. It sounds like the minister that gets it done.
Well, I don't know, get it done.
Bob the builder.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
But I'm certain, one of the things that I can definitely say that I appreciate is that you, Minister, you give credit a lot to your staff at the ministry.
Yeah, because without them, I couldn't do the things I'm doing.
Right. And so I think that's appreciated. Ivan, I know I cut you off. Is there anything else that's pressing? Do we get the minister to come back and give him the opportunity to be? Here's why
I don't want him to come back just yet, because there's some things that I've been asking him to do. Of course, his staff was away and stuff, but I think people hitting me up all the time and calling me like, when you're going to the port, carry me with you. I think we need to go there and do a live, so I think we're going to try and do that on Monday. Actually walk the property, video now with angel stills, talk with the guys that are walking and stuff. I think that'd be pretty cool. I want to see the airport terminal started. It's critically important to me.
It's critically important to Anguilla.
Well, yeah. Let me put Anguilla before me, because it is. Now,
in terms of our economic resilience, it's critically
what I am seeing our arrivals looking like for the peak of the season, and I am expecting that the winter is going to be brutal this year. So the numbers are going to jump.
Awesome.
Yeah, the numbers are going to
She said awesome.
Yeah, I'll tell you, right? So when we came to office and I toured the airport, there was a tent on the eastern side of the airport with some chairs, literally from primary school, right?
Yeah, you saw your name one of them because he was a bad boy.
Yeah, that was bad. So and immediately we see we got to fix this, and we fixed it. We built a new facility. Now we're installing our scanners, as you know.
Yes.
Our scanners are in. We're doing so much work at the existing terminal, because the existing terminal have to meet regulatory standards.
Of course.
And also have to meet the increased volume that's coming in. Like when we were having discussion before we even make the big announcement of American, right? We're talking about how we can create desk space. What are we going to do to create desk space? The parliamentary secretary at the time, who was the Honorable Kinsey Gums Marie,
yes.
We all went there, we say, hey, what are we going to do? How are we going to reconfigure this to create desk space? Because we need desk space for American.
Yeah.
And we were able to create the situation where we have that beautiful space now in. I tell you, the contractors and everybody worked so hard up to the day the plane was coming in.
Yes.
I was in Miami. Hey, send me pictures. I need to have updates. I'm not coming under the trash, right? Tourist board, everybody got involved to make it happen. And now you see the activity. When I go over there, I'm so proud to see all of those young people in the red uniforms. They're working for American, gainfully employed. And I know they're going to be so busy over this upcoming year, this year coming forward. But it creates so much activity in which an airport has to be in. And so even as it relates to the design of the new terminal, right? The design of the new terminal, we want to have that experience, even though it's not going to be Miami International or JFK or Gatwick, Heathrow. We want to have that experience when you walk through that airport. You feel as if you're walking through an airport where you want to go and buy a Louis Vuitton bag or Michael Kors, or you want to go and have a meal or a sandwich, or you want to go and buy a piece of jewelry, you want to go and buy a piece of local art, Carmel gums, and all of these things. You'll be able to walk through that, and there's so many opportunities for people to actually purchase. The opportunities to purchase and commerce at the airport is much larger than that at the Blowing Point Ferry Terminal, just because the Blowing Point Ferry Terminal you can show up 5 minutes before departure and leave, while at the airport there's a regulatory requirement for international travel that you be there 2 hours before. So what are you going to do for that 2 hours after you check in?
But even when the minister, the controller from IRD was here, and we were talking about GST, he talked about those things.
Yes.
I'll say this though, it's fine and dandy to have a great space for American and whoever new carriers we have, because it was built for new carriers, because everybody was there before. but you have to pass the carriers that's been there, and there's some work that needs to be done on the outside. Hopefully some attention is being paid to that.
Well, the work has already been done. You'll see.
I mean to the carriers that are there now, those kiosks, those desks, there's some work that needs to be done there.
Well, those kiosks belongs to the respective carriers.
So they can do the work themselves?
They can do the work themselves with consultation with ASPA and the Ministry.
Well, I think that's where we need to get ASPA in here on this, because I'll be honest, some have the glass down now, some have the glass up, there's no uniformity. I don't want to pass that to fix that stuff.
Yeah.
Please, fix that stuff.
This has been a great episode.
Yes.
We always look forward to
one of the things that I'll be keen on to in terms of the whole design is landscaping features. I always like to see nice landscaping features, and even with the new parking and what have you, even though it's going to be concrete, it's a huge grass area, it's going to have a lot of concrete there. You're going to have those beautiful landscape features, because in terms of the Valley Main Road, that is something that I was keen on seeing as well. With the green spaces. And also there's going to be green spaces created across the island. We're going to be developing a botanical garden in the valley.
You're giving us a little too much now, man.
Right, we're going to be doing that. And also some playing fields where
Don't tell them, I want
with children and families can go and enjoy an afternoon or weekend. And these are the things that we're actively working on to commence hopefully this year. In terms of we partnered with Shawnee O'Neill and Pastor Keon to do a nice little lighthouse park here in Anguilla, where families and children can go and enjoy it with their kids and what have you. So these are the things that we're working on as well. Also,
I like that. I like that.
So look forward to a lot of different things that is going to be happening throughout the community. And I don't ever say things that it's just pie in the sky, because even on announcing the development of the Valley Main Road, I was watching the live afterwards, and I saw people saying, "Oh, here Hayden with his lies again," and the airport road and the George Hill bypass and the resurfacing the airport. Here comes Hayden with his lies again. I saw that consistently, but then when it's done, what do you say? These things are actually done.
You can talk with your mouth full?
Sorry?
Can you talk with your mouth full?
Yeah.
You can't. So
Right?
you can't say nothing.
And even as it relates to the airport road, I announced the start of the airport road the day before it started.
Yeah,
and people were like, "What do you mean tomorrow?" It's tomorrow. Like literally tomorrow we have to start that road. So I don't like to announce things prematurely.
So in other words, the lighted thing is coming soon. The green space is coming soon.
Botanical garden is coming.
Botanical garden is coming
The
soon.
Honorable Quincy Gums Murray is leading on that. And and I can tell you, the Honorable Diane Kentish Rogers, she's keen. She's what we're working on together in tandem with the Ministry of Tourism and her ministries.
Yeah, she's got a lot of really cool stuff happening.
How we can partner in terms of Carnival, right? And the promotion and making Carnival 2023 really grand.
And on to the 50th, she's talking about the 50th.
And so there's a lot of things that we in sports tourism and what have you. So these are the things that we're working on, because the facility in Blowing Point is going to be very important for tourism or sport and tourism product. And as you know, the minister's also working on the track and field. And
You're giving a little too much.
So we are going to, because
Stop right there.
you have preempted the rest of the season and next season.
I'm sorry.
But I will say, I always enjoy when you come on. You have given us a lot to chew on. I'm going to say I look forward to next year. Looking out, I'll say this. Where I live, I have a really, really great view of that whole Meads Bay stretch.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart when the end of August comes and it's pitch black. It is pitch black when Four Seasons is closed.
Yeah.
Completely. So I look out and it's like vast emptiness at night. But come October sometime soon, it's going to be lit up.
Next month, like I said, there won't be no long closure. Next month we're gonna crack in, and hopefully next year.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm hoping that next year I don't have to look out into the vast darkness of nothingness. But Mr. Hughes, Honorable Minister, I want to say thank you for coming on, speaking with us.
Yes.
I have broken my own rules, gone over time.
I so happy this one today.
Gone over
so
time
happy
because I
this
think,
one today.
just to be able to get that last bit in there was very important. So thank you so much. Ivan, any last words? You have 20
it's
seconds.
it's been a pleasure. We got a lot going on. We got a lot to push out there. We got a lot to communicate. I'm kind of pacing and trying to be practice some temperance because there's so much. And like I was saying,
a lot of policy initiatives and
there's
legislative
so much.
initiatives coming out of the ministry as well in terms of the seatbelt regulations, child seat
There's
regulations,
so much.
vanity plates.
Yes.
On that note, you will be back.
Alright, that's it. We'll be back. This has been another great episode of Progress Report. Like I said, we're in season 2. You can catch us on your local radio stations. That's Cool FM, Radio Anguilla, NBR, Advent Radio, Upbeat Radio, of course. And we circulate via WhatsApp after the shows are aired. It's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, it's on your favorite podcast streaming platform right now. It's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts.
You can't miss us. We on TV?
We're on TV, we on local TV, we're on KCN, we're on Digicel, cable, we're everywhere. Stay connected. Reach out to us, email us at public.relations@gov.ai. Send us ideas of guests. Gleneva has a whole long list. We're going to touch everything over the next couple of weeks. And on that note, I'm not going to make it to 75 minutes. I'm going to make it less than 75 minutes. So see you on the next episode of Progress Report.